Hello folks, it is Thursday, and just like a few weeks ago, or last week I think it was, I think it's time to read some of your own custom Space Marine chapters, and I'm very, very, very happy to be able to do that for you. Last week's quality bar was set very, very, very highly indeed, but let's see what we are given this week, because I want to see a gamut all across the board of people's hobby skills, what they're into, where their creativity is taking them, and generally maybe you can get some good ideas about what to do with your own 40k forces. I've been asked in the past, can we send in Xenos stuff? No. They will be getting their own video later on, and I've been asked, can we send in Chaos stuff? You can, as long as they're more Renegade rather than actual full-blown Chaos, right? There's one today that is full-blown Chaos, just to give you a semblance of what that might look like, but that is the very extreme what I'm going to read today. The Chaosy faction is the most extreme today that I'm going to be reading on this kind of video, alright? If my voice is weird, I'm still recovering from a cold. I shouldn't really be doing videos, but, you know, it is what it is. You know, I'm off from work at the moment with this cold. Like, why would I, you know, just sit here all day doing nothing when I've got all you to keep company? It's nice, you know, it's a nice problem to have. Anyway, moving on. Let's do our first chapter today, and that is a chapter called the Cenobites, if I remember correctly. Let me just pull up here. So let me just run into this and let me get who sent me this in again. Let's just have a little look see here. Right. There we go. This is from Tom, so thank you very much, Tom. And these are the Cenobites. Let's jump in, shall we? I'll do the lore first, and I'll show you some pictures of them as we go through, alright? Got some model pictures to do. Alright. If I go quiet, by the way, I'm either coughing and I've switched my mic off, or I'm, like, you know, sneezing and I've switched my mic off, alright? Cool. So, the Cenobites of Morgon. Buried deep within the Eye of Terror is the dark, cold moon of Morgon. Scattered upon the sands of the moon are braying hordes of beastmen, preying upon the vicious fauna and the descendants of slaves long ago transported to the rock to entertain its foul overlord. Looming above all of this is the labyrinth of Opulosa? Yeah, Opulosa. A twisted cyclopean maze filled with deranged warriors and horrific monstrosities. At the centre of the labyrinth, in a den of sins and pleasures, slumbers the overlord of Morgon, the mighty demon prince Sionisius, or Sionisus. Yeah, Sionisus. 40k is terrible for this kind of naming convention. It happens all of the time. I'm telling you now, in like Horus Heresy books, where there's like a word that is 15 letters long, and like you've literally made that up, or you've gone into a thesaurus to look it up to use it in your book. You know, stop trying to. Happens. I'm okay you guys doing it because you guys keep them like to a respectful length. You know what I mean? Like Sionisus is fine, but the amount of times I've read a Horus Heresy book going, what even is that word? And I mark essays and edit books for a living. You know what I mean? Anyway. Sionisius slumbers in his meditation chambers, and as he does, the remnants of his once mighty company amuse themselves with slaves and baleful masochisms, awaiting their master's attention. But Sionisius was not always a demon prince, and his legions were not always the ranged cultists of Slaanesh. Once, they were proud warriors of the Sons of Horus. When the heresy began, the praetor known as Sionisius immediately backed his father. Sionisius was a proud warrior, a skilled swordsman, and he led from the front and practiced a duelist's honour that saw him on the near brink of death multiple times. Sionisius loved Horus. He loved him more than a son loves a father. Oh, where are we going with this? In fact, he worshipped Horus as a god-emperor in his own right, and when said emperor declared war on the false overlord of mankind, Dionysus immediately betrayed the rotting Imperium. At last he had a chance to prove himself against the mightiest of his brothers. At last he could display his devotion to Horus, and his battle brothers were all too eager to fight with him. Okay. Alright. As the heresy continued, and the sons of Horus fell closer and closer to chaos, a horrible transmutation befell Dionysius. His pride, ever present, drew Slanesh's attention. As he defeated champion after champion of the Emperor, his ego grew to unholy heights. But deep beneath all his nobility and all of his honour, there was something darker. He did not seek out champions because of a desire to lay his enemies low. He did it for the thrill, the cheap thrill of being close to death. When wounds struck him, even in the days before the gods of chaos decisive defeat, his body thrummed with pleasure at his wounds. The pain energized him, and as the war droned on, he became ever dulled to agony and sought out sicker indulgences. Okay, we can see where he's going here. This guy seems to me more like a purist's Lucius the Eternal, you know? Like, the downfall of Lucius was quite tragic. He was always an arse, yes, but you know what I mean? He was never, like, really that bad until he was, do you know what I mean? Until he made that fateful decision to turn against his brothers. This guy was always an arsehole. Like this Dionysius always seems like a bit of a prick. And, but I like it. The masochism was what gave Slanesh ultimate influence over him. This is what set him on the path to demonhood. As Dionysius grew stronger, the Dark Prince granted him more and more powers, but little did he know, his men were doomed to Slanesh. His chosen bodyguards had set themselves down the path along with their beloved Praetor, and so too were his loyal Reavers, and scores of the legionaries that marched behind him. At the Siege of Terra, at the Siege of Terra was when Slanesh's final gift was given. Dionysius ascended to demonhood, but that was the end of his victories. Oh, okay. As the traitorous forces were forced to flee, Dionysius and his soldiers fled into the Eye of Terror and found the mutant-riddled hell moon of Morgon. The labyrinth predated their coming, and the remains of his company took up residence there. It has long since been... I'm getting my voice with my cold right now. Sorry. It has been a long time since the heresy. The loyal Reavers were racked with mutations, and now are naught but mnemonically possessed vessels for the ruinous powers. His legionaries fully devolved into the worship of Slanesh, turning battle into a game and becoming noise marines. His most loyal brothers, who had joined him on the path to demonhood, stumbled on the path and were reduced to chaos spawn. The company had fallen entirely. Dionysus went into seclusion. He and his fellow legionaries had turned the labyrinth of Morgon into their own twisted pleasure house. They experimented in art and music and torture. They would amuse themselves in the arena, sending champions into the depths, only to watch them be torn apart by their horrific denizens. They would fight each other in the mighty arena, and they would torment captives and turn them into exhibitions of agony. And then, when he grew bored, Dionysus slumbered, and his legions waited for their master to awaken and lead them back to glory. For once every few centuries, Dionysus may rouse himself from his drug-fueled slumbers, and lead his horde into real space to collect unfortunate souls to torment in the labyrinth. Or sometimes he will devote his forces to one of Abaddon's Black Crusades, seeing the War Master as the spiritual successor to his beloved Horus. Okay, first thing here that I want to point out, you've missed an opportunity here, a big opportunity in the lore, because Horus didn't stay dead, as we know. At least he was brought back in clone form by Fabius Bile, and Abaddon was actually the one to slay that clone. He said, "Yeah, you're not my father," blah blah, you know. So it could have been an amazing point of character development to see what Dionysius thought of that. You know, what did he think of his liege coming back? How did Horus dying affect him? Because you've gone into all of the rigmarole of establishing this severe love that he has for his Primarch, but you don't tell us how it affects him when the Primarch dies. You know, and how it affects the Legion. Maybe a lot of his dudes were on the path to demonhood, right? And the death of Horus just shook them so much they became Chaosborn. And that's haunted Dionysius to this day, right? I'm changing his name every time I say it, but, you know, it is what it is. Do you know what I mean? And maybe he doesn't like Abaddon. Maybe, like, he's like, no, like, this is not my father. He's trying to take his place, you know? Maybe I'm the true son of Horus. Maybe his body's still out there somewhere. Maybe, since he's that much like an Emperor's children, children marine, maybe he should be helping the Emperor's children clone more Horuses out there. Or at least trying to. Do you know what I mean? That's what I think. I think you've missed the trick there in the lore to bring him in. You know? They read the first Black Legion book back to front, like read it all the way through, and then come back to your lore. So I think you can put some really, really cool stuff in here, you know, to marry it into the lore even further. All right, cool. Sorry, just a little cough there. So, but there are some in the Legion that did not fall to the Prince of Darkness. Lord... Okay, that name, man. Brutaxius with 2 X's. Oh my god. Lord Brutaxius, one of Dionysius' most trusted captains during the heresy, leads the Chosen of Morgon out into the galaxy. They devote themselves to unseating the false emperor. However, they, like their demonic overlord, refuse to shed the colours of the sons of Horus. Dionysius did not join the rest of the Legion in following Abaddon's black colour scheme in respect for his fallen father. Dionysius keeps his armour in the greens of the pre-heresy Legion, and so does Brutaxius and his Chosen. When they join forces with the Black Legion, they enshroud themselves in black cloaks. However, when Dionysius wakes, his brothers return to him instinctually, and they set out upon the galaxy once more. Okay, I was about to say, yeah, that's a bit of a lore loophole there that you've got around, because Abaddon does not like the Sons of Horus. The Legion thinks they failed. They're not good enough. He's a Black Legion guy. Alright. But there are more strange rituals concerning the Cenobites of Morgon. It is said that if a warrior can enter the labyrinth, reach the centre, rouse Dionysius from his slumber, and defeat the proud warrior in a duel, then the Cenobites are his to control, until Dionysius is rebirthed by his master. When that happens, the champion is marked, and Dionysius, emboldened by horrid rage, will hunt down whoever defeated him and challenge them again. That's cool. Alright, a lot of this lore was very samey, and like we've seen it before, you know, but that's cool. I like that idea. It has only happened once. A Chaos Lord of the Black Legion, chosen by Slanesh, and well on the path to demonhood himself, managed to best the labyrinth and its denizens, and rouse Dionysius. Dionysius was defeated, and the Cenobites, the Possessed, the Noise Marines, the Beastmen, and the demonic concoctions served him for a time. But when Dionysius reformed in the warp and tracked down his assailant, he bested the attacker. But Dionysius' pride had been wounded, and so instead of granting a warrior's death, as he would before the heresy, he wounded, and so instead of he dragged the fallen lord to his dungeons and afflicted him with sick torments he had been dreaming of for millennia. In the end, Slanesh himself intervened to spare his fallen servant from the ghastly torment and rendered him a Chaos Spawn, which now serves as Dionysius' favourite pet. Wow. Wow, so this guy's so sick that even like Slanesh was like, okay, dude, chill. Right, okay, alright. When Cenobites raids real space, braying herds of beastmen lead the charge. Cenobites detests the use of mortal servants. His pride does not allow him to see mere humans as useful. He is an Astartes, and they are nothing. But the beastmen, the children of his patrons, they are beautiful. For where once he worshipped Horus, now Slanesh has his devotion. Hordes of possessed reavers and deranged noise marines make up the bulk of the shock troops, with horrifically mutated remains of Justarian Terminators materializing out of thin air. Butaxius and his chosen will rejoin their master, riding to battle in rusted transports. And at the heart of every assault, Cenobites himself marches, flanked by a legion of Chaos Spawn, ready to face anyone who can give him a worthy victory or an agonizing defeat. Alright, okay. Let's see a few pics, shall we? Let's have a little look here. Alrighty. Is that the main man himself? Okay, for a model, for a guy with such a really cool story, right? I like this model, I like the way you've done it. You know, I really like him. But the thing is, I think your story deserves a bespoke model. Do you know what I mean? That's the Demon Prince model from a few years ago, right? I reckon you should save up some of your pennies and build one yourself from different parts. Maybe get a bit of Baylor core, like a Baylor core model, you know, converted a little bit. That would do this guy a lot more justice. Right? Have a look at Baylor core out there. An absolute stud of a model. Like, I'm getting one myself. It shows you how cool he is. Okay? Let me just put it on screen. Let me get that. Because he is such a cool model, man. And the actual size of him, he is literally towering over Abaddon the Despoiler. Like, towering over him. It's ridiculous how big this guy is. He's kind of like the same size as Mortarion, really. Is he a little bit bigger? A few you dirty Chaos guys out there will have him. Is he bigger than Mortarion? You'll have both. Anyway, here he is. Now, this guy converted a little bit would be a much better fit for what you're going for. He's elegant, you know what I mean? He looks to me more Slaneshi than anything else. Even though he's Chaos Undivided. He's an amazing model. The sword should stay. But you can change anything about the model that you want, but this is the model you want to go for him. Absolutely. You can even put him in the center of the labyrinth there. Like that's the center of it, where he is. How cool would that be? Awesome stuff, man. That's my advice, anyway. Lovely lore, though. Well done. Right. Moving onwards. Let's go to our next submission here. Our next submission is... Right, it is from Connor. Thank you very much. He says, "Hi North, just call me Connor if you need a name." I have done, thank you. Preface. This successor chapter exists largely to allow the use of Heresy-era power armor and armament equipment in 40k's present day. I will attach a couple of pictures of some models, though all of them are still works in progress. Okay, cool. Let's have a look-see here. I like that. I like that guy. That's cool. Alright, cool. I'll put one up and then I'll put another one up later on. The story. Let's get in. The 37th is the descendant 37th company of the Imperial Fist's 7th Legiones Astartes in the 41st millennium. This company was sent during the final days of the Great Crusade to bring the terum system into compliance, at the behest of an underground society located in Boeotia. Gaining an audience with the Praetorian of Terra, they spoke of this star system, far on the eastern fringe of the galaxy, untouched by old night and brimming with potential. The company fleet was dispatched to bring them into the Imperial fold. Suffering the effects of a devastating warp storm, the fleet's navigators and psychers started to lose their minds in the warp. In a desperate bid they translated the fleet into real space near directly on top of the third planet. One ship translated into the atmosphere directly and burned up, but it was too late for the navigators. They had all perished upon translation. Stranded in the system, the Sons of Dawn had no choice but to wait for help to arrive. Little did they know that Horus had betrayed the Imperium, and help would not be coming. Terum, starfang in its own right, and nearly the size of starfaring in its own right, and nearly the size of Inwit's empire, was eager to join the Imperial cause. However, they could not help the Fists in their predicament because of the main reason that their society had survived Old Night, their brutal suppression of psychic powers and abilities. They did not even have navigators, only relying on real space for transport and commerce. So, they did what little they could to help, and offered their loyalty. And the Fists, over the course of several years, built the system into a bastion, slowly expanding and gaining resources to maintain their numbers. As work continued, it became more and more clear that help was not coming. So the Fists, determined to do something at last, started to expand the bounds of their bastion into neighbouring systems and sectors, seeking an experienced navigator, but only finding dead, abandoned, and hostile worlds. They spent many years conquering and recolonising these worlds. It would not be until the War of the Beast that their help would unwittingly arrive. The 10th Company of the Ultramarines chapter stumbled across this miniature empire whilst shadowing an Orc fleet on its rampage across the south of Ultramar, after which they were finally reunited with the Imperial fold. Given that the company had been separated from the Imperium before the heresy, they had never even heard of the Codex Astartes, and due to the ongoing war, the Ultramarines did not have the time to introduce it to them. Because of resource limitations, the company did not have any more than 1,200 Marines regardless, so Imperial authorities did not have much concern regarding this ignorance. After replenishing their numbers of navigators and petty psychers, the Orc War turned its attention towards Terum, and the Fists began to fight the Xenos once again. They would be at continual war with Xenos of various kinds until the present day. The 37th, named Terum Fists, to the rest of the Imperium, are still very isolationist and reminiscent of their days in the Great Crusade. They are obsessed with maintaining their war gear, and a majority of the company wears the same Mark II and Mark III plate that their ancestors wore. They are well known for void combat and boarding actions, as well as drop assault actions. They make extensive use of plasma weaponry and boarding shields. Okay. Their ignorance of the Codex Astartes would gradually turn them into a feud with the Ultramarines and their successor chapters, as hearts hardened on both sides. They would find common ground with the Black Templars, who shared their disinterest of the Codex, but even the Imperial Fists, their long-lost brothers, would find themselves siding with the Ultramarines because of the long-earned lessons given during the Battle of the Iron Cage. The Terum Fists, who had not suffered through that bitter war, were undeterred in their father's stubbornness, though it led to the occasional spat between cousins. The Terum Fists didn't find themselves in any serious trouble due to their defiance. They struggled to keep their numbers above 1,000 Marines anyway, and their isolation on the periphery of the Imperium kept them largely out of the sight of the die-hard Codex enthusiasts. Because of the series of endless wars they have fought, the 37th have become known for their ever-decreasing patience for conflict, and their steadily increasing brutality on the field of battle. Veteran guardsmen witnessing their tactics on the field of battle would whisper to each other in fear that they may have devoted themselves to the worship of corn, but it has never been established one way or the other if this is the case. As the Black Templars have inherited Dawn's rage, perhaps that rage has found a home in another successor. Cheers, Connor. Thank you very much, man. Thank you. That was awesome. Let's have a little look, shall we? I've got 2 pictures of your chapter here. Let's have a little look-see. So, we have one there. I like that guy. But I wanted to pick up this one. Okay, so. I love the differing stances of Mark III plate. And I love the fact that you've got the old style legionary armour as a part of your forces. I think that's brilliant. Okay? Absolutely brilliant. What I would say, man, before you go any further, water down your paints. Make sure they're watered down. We're losing some detail in the arms there, right? Water down your paints. And what I would do is look up how to darken down and then highlight bright yellow. The Imperial Fists are, weirdly, some of the hardest Marines to paint. White Scars are easier than Fists as far as I'm concerned, right? And that's white. Imperial Fists are hard. Difficult. Alright? You've kind of painted yourself into a corner here by suggesting that they're like isolationist and they love their Imperial Fist heritage, so they're never going to change it. So you've got to stick with it. So if you're going to stick with it, look up tutorials, because you clearly have some talent here. Look at the blood on the sword, man. You clearly have some talent. You clearly have a lot of good ideas. So make sure you're thinning down your paints, doing 2 complete coats, nice coats of yellow, right? And working it from there, rather than, you know, adding more paint that needs to be bled there. You know what I mean? In terms of lore, your lore is airtight. I love it. Your lore is airtight and goes quite well with the wider Imperial lore as well, right? It's an idea a lot of people have done over the years, and that they say, look, you know, this chapter got lost, and now they are this, or this sect of, you know, Horus Heresy Marines, you know, Mark III Marines got lost in the warp, and now they're here. Yeah, great thing to do. I like it. Technically, it's true also of, you know, different, well, the entire Chaos Warbands. You know, they've been lost in the warp, technically. You know, time has not flowed the same way for them as to everybody else, you know what I mean? Which is why they're still young, and they can still fight. One thing I love that you've done here is that you've mixed and matched different armor sets as well, to make sure that it looks like your Marines have actually gone, oh my god, right, I've lost my leg piece here, or it's too battered, I need to get a new one. And they go to one of their brothers, you know, they say, sorry brother, they take off the leg piece and they put it on their own bit of armor. I love that. I love telling a story through models that you're going for. I think that's a great, great idea. So carry on. Well done to you. Let's go with our third and final chapter of the day. And one of my personal favourites so far, and it is from Sev. So hey there, he says, Mr. Exile of the North, you can call me Sev. A long-time listener, first-time writer. I saw you wanted submissions for homebrewed chapters, so I thought I'd send my own, and a huge coincidence that happened with it. Alright, cool. I joined the hobby back in 2010 as a young lad during 5th edition. Not long after joining, I created a chapter called The Blood Dragons, a Blood Angels successor chapter. They are part of a system I have for all my 40k armies, obviously having evolved and being added in the over the decade I've been in the hobby. Their home system is it's another one of these 40k names. Innominatus? Yeah. Their home system is Innominatus, residing in the Charadon sector of the Ultramar Segmentum. It's the Ultima Segmentum, isn't it? Anyway, the Blood Dragon's Fortress Monastery is on Draco Cambrica. I like that name. A near molten world and the closest planet to the system's sun. Rumours long had it that the planet was home to a large blood-red demonic creature of draconic nature, which is where the planet and the chapter's name comes from. Okay, alright, cool. The chapter itself was founded in the 13th millennium, the 13th founding. They're clad, is that not, by the way, the 13th founding, 13th Space Marine Founding. Is that not the cursed founding? Yeah, the dark founding. Ah! So the dark founding is where the Adeptus Ministorum, or no, not the Ministorum. You know what I mean? The guys who keep all the records, right? They don't have all the records of where the gene seed came from for Space Marine chapters of that founding. So if you want to do like a dark, mysterious, maybe traitor legion descended, you know, Space Marine chapter, that's where you go to, the 13th founding, right? We don't have the records for them. Anyway. They are clad in crimson red armour, their pauldrons trimmed in black, and their red armour adorned with gold symbols. Their chapter's icon is a dragon's head with a drop of blood coming out of his mouth. Being situated in the Charadon sector, they often find themselves embroiled in conflict with the Orc Empire of Charadon. Okay, I like this. Let's put some pictures up, shall we? Is that one? No. Here we go. Lovely, lovely crimson. Alright. As a result of this conflict, along with the recent devastation of Baal, they've been depleted down to 500 battle brothers. Their 2nd, 5th and 6th companies were nearly completely destroyed, and the 1st, 4th and 7th have taken very heavy casualties. As a direct result of these heavy casualties, their scout company is notably large as to replenish their ranks. A unique requirement for any blood dragon to progress up the ranks to become any sort of squad leader is to lead battle for a platoon of one of the local guard regiments. The oh my god, this name again. The Inominatan Guard. It's just 40k names sometimes. They're designed to be unreadable. Innominatan. Yeah. The Innominatan. The Innominatan Guard. Or the Innominatan Wyverns. The latter being airborne. Okay, so they lead guard regiments, okay. The way the chapter sees it, if you can't be trusted leading mere guardsmen, how can you be trusted to lead the Emperor's finest? Okay. Yeah, but guardsmen run away more readily. It's easier to lead Space Marines than it is to lead guardsmen. Right? Space Marines don't run away. And they obey orders, for the most part, right? Anyway. Space Marines don't need commissars, is what I'm saying. You know? Anyway. Unlike many chapters, the Blood Dragons aren't looked at as the Emperor's saviours when they arrive in a system, but instead a sign that more destruction of the world will follow, as the Blood Dragons don't really care for civilian life. Acceptable casualties if it means the enemies of the Imperium are crushed beneath their heels. Oh my god. Can you imagine one of these guys leading a guard regiment? Like, that's ridiculous. You're going to be like, yes, everyone must die. Go and jump on the screen, everybody, you know. You could say their unofficial chapter motto is Cadite Eos, Novit Ehim Imperator Qui Sunt Eos, or kill them all, let the Emperor sort them out. Yeah, similar to the medieval crusader, you know, saying, slay them all, God will recognize his own, right? We're going to send them to heaven anyway, you know, may as well do it now. In conflict, they also lean heavily into using flame and melter weaponry, even if other weapons will be better suited for the task at hand. It's rumoured that this is a result of the chapter having chimeric gene seed, mixing both blood angels and salamanders. It is also rumoured this potential salamander gene seed is corrupted, changing the salamander's efforts to save the civilians for a disdain for civilians. Okay. Well, I'm not sure that the salamanders were that their love of protecting civilians comes from their gene seed. I think it's more of a cultural thing. You know, there's certainly a part of it that is, but I think mostly it's a cultural thing. But yeah, it's cool anyway. Okay. Now, I mentioned a coincidence earlier that I'll tell you about now. As I said before, I created this chapter in the early 2010s, so, a good decade ago at least. But in the 9th edition of Blood Angels Codex Supplement, I noticed something quite peculiar. A successor chapter named the Blood Dragons, who wore crimson red armour with black shoulder trim, gold iconography, and a chapter symbol of a dragon with a blood drop coming out of its mouth. Sounds familiar, right? It just so happens they also have a lack of care for civilian casualties during war. I'm not claiming GW stole my chapter, not really any way they could have, though I did talk about them in a GW store, I guess. But I do use this as an excuse to say GW made my chapter canon. I don't consider myself that good a painter, about average, but here's a handful of my chapter members. Dude, that is such a pat on the back, though. They made my chapter canon. You know what I mean? That's, you lucky sod. They made my chapter canon too, but they made them chaos. I know. I might actually do Astral Blade later and make them a Chaos Warband. Wouldn't that be cool? What do you think, guys? Reckon I should do it? Anyway, that's enough for today. I'll be back tomorrow with some more Hobby Nightmares. Thank you for sending in some of your wonderful custom Space Marine chapters. Keep them rolling in. Make sure you use the words custom Space Marine chapter and highlighted. You know, make sure it's right there at the start of the email. Please make sure that they're written in a way that I can at least, you know, make sense of them going forwards. You know, like the ones today were great. The ones last week were great, right? Try and get some art if you can. Art is better than models. I love models, but I love art, right? If you can get me some art, even if it's not technically of your Space Marines, it's much better to put on screen. And some models too. Models are also nice. Models are for the people watching at home because they love looking at models. But I love looking at art as well, so send some of that in if you can. Anyway, love you a long time. See you tomorrow, and have a good one. Bye now. Oh, before you go, if you're wondering where the Maka video is, it'll be here on Tuesday, alright? Next Tuesday. So it'll be following this coming Tuesday, so don't worry about that. Alright, love you, bye.